So when I look at your auric field, I do see Pleiades, okay, which is interesting because the beings that you described, they sound like Pleiadians to me, but then when I check your auric field, it was definitely Pleiades. You probably did have some incarnations in some other systems. I'm not seeing a prior Lyra incarnation for you, so I think when you first incarnated into, a physical realm, it was actually in the Pleiades itself. I am seeing connections with Alcyon, okay, and Maya, okay, and possibly Merope. Okay. Now the purple skies, when you describe that, that sounds a lot like Merope. Okay, because the skies there are really kind of like a deep indigo purpley color. Um, I don't know if you had a chance to see the three moons. One of the planets in Merope has three moons, but but I do see that those people that you encountered were Pleiadians. They do look pretty perfect compared to us, especially. They're really tall. Sometimes they wear jumpsuits. Other times they wear like long gowns. I've seen them wear both. And they generally, Pleiadians are kind of varied in the way they look. So some of them can have really light colored hair and they look kind of like your typical Nordics. Others of them could be darker haired and darker skinned and they might look more Native American. So there's a variety of different types of Pleiadians depending on what star system they came from. I think your origins was Alcyon, but I do think that you had, and the Pleiadians that you encountered, I think, were most likely council members if they were wearing long gowns. Okay, so you're part of the family that the illustrious Pleiadian family that serves on councils. Okay. Now, do you do any kind of law or any kind of government in this lifetime? I'm just curious.
No, I was a financial advisor, and I'm switching over now to become an acupuncturist.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So the administrative work you did before, the finance work, is kind of in alignment with Alcyon. Quite a few Alcyon Pleiadians are very good with organization and administration. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. So, um, so quite a few, Pleiadians from that system have varied skill sets. However, I think the acupuncture is more in alignment with Maya and Merope because both of those star systems were more, I would say, Mother God consciousness oriented, so they were more spirituality and healing. Uh, so, um, so Maya is kind of an interesting star system because most of the Pleiadians there, they don't look like your typical Pleiadians. They have darker hair, darker skin. They look like maybe like native or indigenous. Okay. Uh, Now, is your ancestry in this lifetime? Is it? It's Hispanic, but I'm not sure which kind.
Yeah.
Is
Well, most of them are from Guatemala. Then I have my mom's grandmother, or grandmother, yeah, that are from Italy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, nice. So the Pleiades definitely fits because most Italian and Hispanic genetics are Pleiadian based. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive. You would think it would be, yeah, mostly. You would think it would be mostly, Nordics. That would be Pleiadian.
Yeah.
But you do have a Pleiadian influence in southern Italy and also parts of Spain and other parts of the Mediterranean. And then there's also a native influence on, or a Pleiadian influence on, indigenous groups, from Central America, so a lot of the Mayans and, the other indigenous people of that region all claim ancestry to the Pleiades. All of them, all of their temples are aligned with the Pleiades, so, so I think, so I think even though you probably don't look like your typical tall, blonde, beautiful Nordic Pleiadian, I think you're just as Pleiadian as they are. You just maybe have a different look. Now Maya was mostly, they were mostly all about spirituality. So most of the people that incarnated in Maya were scholars and deep spiritual teachers, so they were teachers and scholars, and they also were very gifted in healing. I also, Merope is a big healing center too. Merope is more matriarchal than Maya is. Maya is a little bit more of a balance between men and women, but Merope is extremely matriarchal. I mean, it's the priestesses there pretty much run the whole planet. So I do see incarnations there as well. Now it's interesting that you went into acupuncture because that's more of a Sirian modality. So I'm wondering if maybe you either had lifetimes in Sirius or you went through the Sirian Mystery Schools. You know what I'm saying? So.
So this is okay. When I say mystery schools, this is a weird thing. So I just started a mystery school, and I was having weird dreams too about that. That somebody had put me like different things that they would have me do. But the last dream that I had last year was that they put me in this coffin inside this pyramid. And when I popped out of it, then like everybody was like, "Congratulations, you have passed." And I said, "Pass what?" "You are now a member of the mystery school." And I'm like, "What are they? What mystery school?" And I happened to go to the spiritual convention last year, and I was going to go with one of my friends. She backed out at the last minute, so I just went by myself. And I'm walking through, and I see mystery school. So I went up to this woman. I started talking to her, and I'm like, "I think this is what those dreams are talking about." So I ended up joining the mystery schools, and my visions and my meditations have increased a lot.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It's funny that you say, yeah, that's why I had that experience with spaceships and weird things like that have been happening now that I do meditation. Before I meditated, but it wasn't to the extent of things happening to me.
Right. It's interesting that you described that they were kind of making you go through various tests because that's exactly what the Sirian Mystery Schools were like. They would set you up in these like impossible situations that you had to solve on your own. It was
that's what they said. They like put me in a coffin, and then I'm like, "Well, okay, how do I get out of here? What time?" They're like, "Is it claustrophobia or something like that?" What they're saying in the dream, and they're like, "You'll figure it out." And I said, "What if I don't?" They said, "Well, then if you don't." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" "Well, I guess you're not getting out." And then I kept having the dream over and over again, and I finally got out of it. They're like, "Congratulations." And I'm like, it took me a couple nights to get out of it. I'm like, I remembered finally. I'm like, oh my gosh. What if I never got out? I would have been doing this continuous loop.
Yeah, you would have been stuck in that dream loop where you were never going to get out of the coffin.
Yeah.
I call the Sirian Mystery Schools the Hunger Games without all the killing, So, they would put you in these impossible scenarios. I had a dream too about. With me, it was more about. There was a door with certain colored panels, and I had to press the colored panels in a certain pattern in order for the door to open. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't remember it. And my cat was helping me in the dream figuring out the door. But it was, but that was another example of a Sirian Mystery School, test, that they would put us through. And So yeah, I think you did definitely go through the schools, and one of the modalities that the Syrians developed was acupuncture. They were all about working with the meridians. Because they were, yeah, the Syrians were more focused on physical healing. So that's why they're called the masters of physical healing. The Pleiadians, on the other hand, are more psycho-spiritual healing. But they're also physical healers as well, but not to the extent that the Syrians did it. So I think probably more than likely, I think you're from the Pleiades, but you probably had lifetimes in Sirius just so you can go through those Sirian Mystery Schools, So, uh, so.
I would say, man, I'd like to make my life difficult, so why not?
Yeah, so kind of like, oh, I kind of mastered the Pleiades. Let me see what Sirius has to offer.
That sounds like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and then you're like, holy shit! Oh, what did I get myself into? Yeah.
Exactly. You talk on the wrong ball.
Yeah, Sirius was kind of interesting because it was very mystical, magical. I always like to describe Sirius as being like going through Lord of the Rings. So many different, different
Yeah.
different species of beings, different environments, where everybody had their own culture, and it was a lot like going through the Lord of the Rings, and I think J.R.R. Tolkien was even a Sirian Starseed. He must have been because. I think when he was writing about, The Hobbit and, Lord of the Rings and all the other stories about Middle Earth, he was actually writing about Sirius. Because a lot of what he describes, it sounds too fantastic to be Earth, but it definitely fits with Sirius. And Sirius had all kinds of different beings. Pleiades was all mostly humanoid. Most of the Pleiadians. They were predominantly humanoid, but Sirius had all kinds of different types of beings that lived in Sirius. So it probably was a lot like, living in Lord of the Rings. But um, because you had incarnations in Sirius too, I think that's probably also why you went into finance, because a lot of Syrians are very practical people. So they're very detail oriented. They understand that if you're in the third dimension, you're going to have to work and make a living, and it might not be the glorious job that you want to do, um, but I applaud you for phasing out of your 3D job and going into acupuncture. That's really amazing. So did you just started taking courses in that, or went through the training?
It was, yeah, that was another thing that kind of took the hint because my mom was having high blood pressure issues, and we're still dealing with that. But the nephrologist said that he had a friend as an acupuncturist, so he's like, "Why not try that?" And I said, "All right, we'll try it." And every time I go in there, I'm very much a business person. I'm like, look at all these people coming in here. This is crazy. And she charges how much? And I'm like, interesting. But before that, I was taking Reiki classes. I've been doing a lot of energy work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. And then I'm like, how long does this take to learn? She said 3 years. I'm like, 3 years? I don't know. We'll see. And then literally something woke me up again and was like, you need to go to acupuncture school. And it was like 2 weeks before before the semester started. And I just signed up. I knew nothing about acupuncture other than their needles. Nothing at all. Which people that go there have been studying for a year at least. I just jumped in there 2 weeks before school and I'm like, here I am. Okay, how do I do this? So I did that.
Oh wow.
Sometimes it's better for me not to know things because then my mind starts panicking or comes up with a plan of how to fix things.
Yeah, that's your Virgo. that's because you're Virgo, but
analytical.
yeah, kind of analytical. Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of an interesting blend of, I think very feminine qualities and very masculine qualities. That's typical for Pleiadian origin star seeds. Uh, but yeah, I think the reason why that the acupuncture was so easy for you is because you learned it in Sirius. You already knew all about the meridians. Uh, um, uh, so that's really cool. So you just started going to school, taking training, and you're going to get your
Yeah,
certification at some point. And
I'm actually working on this one licensing right now. It's the only one that's giving me trouble. I passed the other two, and I'm like, I can't pass this damn exam. I need the next exam is in May.
yeah,
So I've been studying, but it's like I don't know what the blockage is. I was thinking maybe family issues. Like that's a whole other issue. Since I spent a lot of time with him, I'm like, once I do this, it's a whole other world. It's probably holding me back, maybe my mind somewhere. But
it could be a fear program, just letting go of the 3D work, to the great unknown of being a spiritual practitioner is kind of scary. So. Um, uh, but anyway, trying to see if there's anything else about. Um, so you, so you're just trying to pass the exam, and then you'll get your certification.
yeah, I have one more.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Um, yeah, I think that's a really good modality to go into, because most people know what acupuncture is, and some insurance companies will actually pay, to they will,
Yeah.
cover the cost of acupuncture. So yeah, there's a lot of money to be made. Yeah.
I want to do a lot of facial rejuvenation type of acupuncture. I mean, I want that to be one of my specialties.
Oh, nice.
And I already started taking courses on it. But it's why I think I was staring at the Pleiadians, I guess. I was like, how are they so perfect? How do I do that with the needles? How can I make people look like that? I think that was kind of my fascination when I saw them.
Yeah, no, I remember when I first encountered a Pleiadian, it was just like you was on board a ship, and I couldn't even speak because they were just so beautiful that it's just kind of like your words get caught in your throat, but you can't help but look at them because they're so perfect. I mean, they look really good.
They do, yeah. Wow, their
And
skin is great, everything.
and they glow. I mean, they glow.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. Like, not even like just structure-wise, but yes, glowing. Like, I'm like, well, what kind of cream do you use? Like, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all coming from within, so it's not like they're using really good skin products. It's their high vibration, and the fact that they're from the Pleiades, and they have that excellent Pleiadian genetics. So but no, I would love to know how we could get people to look like that. And I imagine that I think once we are able to get Earth ascended to the fifth dimension, I think people's physicalities are going to change a lot. And I kind of hope that they'll start improving a little bit, because a lot of us are struggling with aging, and it seems like no matter what we do, we eat good diets, we exercise, but we're still aging.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it would be kind of nice to see, what is it that we could do to slow the aging process down, and maybe that's part of your mission is as an acupuncturist to adjust people's chi to the point where you can rejuvenate them and help them, even achieve more of an ascension process by adjusting their genetics or their DNA, to where maybe you can help them turn back the clock a little bit, So,
yeah. That fascinates me.
Yeah, I know. I think that would be awesome, to go into. And I don't think you'll have any trouble making money. I think you'll, I mean, regardless if somebody comes for you for health or, for beauty reasons, I think you're going to have plenty of business to go around, especially where you're located.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to know about? As far as your past lives, I'm I'm seeing majority of them are in the Pleiades. I think you had one or two lives in Sirius, and then I think you ended up coming to Earth. I think from Sirius. So I think you probably incarnated in Sirius in order to prepare for your incarnations on Earth. So I do see you're kind of one of those souls that have had incarnations in both Lemuria and Atlantis. I think you've had experienced both. Um, Obviously, we all love Lemuria because it's fifth dimensional. But I think you had a good life even in Atlantis, because I think you were around before Atlantis got really corrupted. And you weren't around in Lemuria when Lemuria fell, so it wasn't like you went through all this trauma. Uh, I do think Egypt was interesting for you. You had incarnations there too. That was really super interesting. You did some really, I think you were involved with some really dark cults. Not dark in an evil way, but more, involving the afterlife. So I see, yeah, I almost think that dream you had was a past life memory. Okay, that was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was a past life memory of maybe it was either the Sirian Mystery Schools or it was the Egyptian Mystery Schools, which was like an offshoot of the Sirian Mystery Schools. Um, but I'm seeing that you were a priestess of Ma'at, who is the goddess of truth. She's the one that wears the feather in her hair and the one that weighs the hearts before they go off to the afterlife. So if if the heart is heavier than their feather, then or they don't balance out, then they don't get to go to the afterlife. So I think you were the human representation of that goddess. So that was a really significant life for you. But mostly what you dealt with was people that died, because you were taking the feather and the scale and weighing their heart out. Yeah. Uh, so so that was an interesting life for you, and I kind of seeing. I think you had some European lives, and then I also see lives in the Caribbean. I see lives in uh, Central America mostly. I think you might have had South America too as a life, but I think most of your lives was European. I think you had some lives in the Mediterranean mostly. So
What about Croatia? Anything?
yeah, I would say that's
Mediterranean?
very yeah, I would say that's very possible. Yeah, because that's not too far from the Mediterranean. Actually, Croatia is on the Mediterranean. So
Yeah, it's right there.
yeah,
Yeah, because
so
I went there in December and I was having some weird, like, I don't know if it was past life or what I kept seeing a lot of fairies there.
oh,
And
cool.
I'm like, was I a fairy? Was I a fairy when I was here? Or was I able to see the elementals when I lived here? It's almost like they were like, hi, hi, how are you? Where you been? Hi, hi.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if you were a shaman of some sort in Central or Eastern Europe. Yeah. I think you also had incarnations. I think in the Pleiades they had fairies. Sirius had fairies. Um, and I think there were several lifetimes on Earth where you had a connection with fairies, but I'm not seeing Great Britain for you. I don't see that. I see more like kind of the Balkans, kind of just north of Greece, that whole kind of Eastern European corridor. So I do think you were probably a shaman of some sort and was probably working hand in hand with fairies, so you're probably involved with some sort of a nature religion, at that time. So this was probably pre-Christianity. Okay. So this was before, the Roman Catholic Church kind of shut everything down, So, but no, I think you most of the time in your lives you were either a priestess or you did some sort of healing work or you worked with, administration, or you were a scholar, to this, tying back to your Maya, your Maya incarnations. Um, so yeah, I think you had some really cool lives. Yeah, I would say your energy is predominantly Pleiadian, but I do see some Sirian influences there too. I think those were the only two star systems I see that you had incarnations in, other than probably. I don't see Lyra for you for some reason. A lot of early second waivers have a connection with Lyra, but I think you were part of a soul group that was assigned to the Pleiades. So you did not have any prior incarnations in Lyra. So what that means is you bypass quite a bit of trauma. So I think that's why I think you're a very steady, level-headed person. I don't think you get overly emotional.
No.
Yeah, I think you're just kind of like very steady, like things don't bother you like they might bother other starseeds or other sensitives. It's like you take it more in stride because you didn't go through that trauma in Lyra. So it's not like you get triggered very easily. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm working up to it, so.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, anyway, looks like we're.
Any names?
What's that?
Just any names from Pleiades?
You mean as far as your name?
Right. I was trying to make out names that they were calling me, but I couldn't grasp it.
Okay, it starts with an A.
Yes, yes, it does start with an A.
Yeah, it starts with an A. That's what they're telling me. I think it's Adria or Adia or Adria. Yeah, Adria. It's Adria. Yeah, Adria.
Okay, because I was like, I couldn't, I'm like, what? So it's Adria?
Adria. Yeah, that's what they're saying was.
Adria?
Yeah, that's your Pleiadian name. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for talking.
Oh, yeah, no
I
problem.
make it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not usually good with names, so your guides were really helping me. So.
Yeah, no, because they're like, I'm like, what? What? Addie. I'm like, are you calling me Addie? Addie. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time, so we do have to wrap things up. But I hope this was helpful. I hope it kind of helped piece some of the puzzle pieces together. And if you decide in the future you want to do a full-blown Akashic reading, we can definitely do that too. But anyway, you have a wonderful evening in New Jersey, and much love, happiness, and blessings to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night. And you were right about those are the places they've always told me, Pleiades and Sirius.
Oh, very cool.
That's why I was wondering.
Yeah. All right, you take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.